Hey, Mr. Marcoux, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Do you want me to put my headset on? Because there's less of an echo on your recording?
I think that would be of great service to our listeners and viewers.
My
Yes.
pleasure. I have to
What are you
tell
what
you
are you
something. I
what are you
have to
guys
tell you
wearing up there in
something.
Canada? What kind
Just
of
do
weird
this real quick.
Canadian headsets you got?
I, for all this time, and this is, I don't know, I know we're recording right now, so I don't know if you want to do an intro or what.
Let's
Um,
just talk. Yeah, what shoot, man.
what I was going to say, no, just fine. And for all this time, I honestly thought it was Levi. So when I saw your blurbs, which were exceptional, by the way, and thank you so much for sharing those with me in your email. All this time, I've known you for like months, and
Better part of
it's
a year, I'd say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Levy. I'm like, oh my god. So it just goes to show you, you can know somebody and you don't know them.
So
And
there's a design to that, and it's not your fault. I say Levy to people who know me.
yes,
And I say Levi when I want them to spell it right. Um,
interesting.
so
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
that's by design, and it's kind of circling back to the original 12 tribes of Israel of the Levites, and kind of returning to the
Interesting.
source, so to speak. So that is not your fault. That is,
It's not a question
excuse
of
me.
fault. It's just very interesting. I mean, everybody thinks Joe is short for Joseph, and my actual name is Joel. So
I did not know that.
most people don't know that either. Yeah. And,
That's
and
really
I go
cool.
by Joe because it's that much easier. Because when people see Joe with the two dots over top and the L, they go, how do you spell that? And Joe, pretty
It's
easy.
like Noel. It's like Noel with a
It's
J, with a
Noel.
J.
Yeah, it's Joel. That's right. Because I'm French. So yeah.
Very cool. We're just
Yeah.
learn all sorts of things about
That's
each
it, man.
other's
And I had
literal
no idea that
nomenclature.
you were in Steve Austin's the Skull Ranch, the
Yeah.
contest.
Yeah.
How was that? That
That
must have been an
was
experience with, just because the cameras and everything too, right? Because it was television, not
that was
just a
the
competitive thing.
that was the first and last time Philip will ever do any kind of reality television. It was silly. It was fun, but it was just a lot of hurry up and wait. Very,
Oh, is that right? Yeah, because
I
they
mean,
got to get the cameras ready. They don't have 10 cameras. They might only have three.
how did you know that? Where did you,
You
where did
had
you,
that on your reel
oh, did I?
in the
Okay.
email that you sent. So I'm like, oh my god, I didn't know that about Phil either.
Oh, fantastic. See, I don't even
Yeah,
know what I say about myself. There's just, I should probably check in on
it's
that.
okay.
Yeah, that was so there are three events. You do 4 events and then the skull buster if you make it that
Yeah.
far. I made it to
Okay.
round 2. I messed up on a foot race, tripped up and lost the race. Those 1 2 3 4 events plus skull buster is 3 days of filming. And
Which you
so
could
it's
do those 4 events in a skullbuster in what? How much time in a regular type of
well, if
event?
you if you
Half a
if you
day?
had it in kind of a course like obstacle A, B, C,
Yeah.
under an hour.
Yeah.
But you've got to reset everything. They're literally combing the sand, like in the water pit where I excelled, where you wrestle a guy and you meet, go for a bell. Each shot has to be identical to the last. So
Wow.
they had 5, I think, bouts, 4 or 5 bouts. I don't remember, but each bout was maybe 90 seconds of action and then another 3 hours to reset the sand, dry it, and
Unreal.
scrape it. Anyway, it was enough about that. That's not why we're here to talk. We're here
No,
to talk
no sweat, man.
about you, sir. So let's see. You've got your usual office with the highest energy wins.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just jump right in.
Sure.
I abandoned doing intros where I say Joe Marcoux is the cycles to sales and
Right. Yeah.
and it's much more interesting if I just ask you, who are you and what do you do?
Okay. Well, so who am I? My name is Joe Marcoux. I'm a father of 5 via the Brady Bunch. So I actually have 2 biological daughters who are 26 and 22 currently as we record this, although she'll be 23 in the next couple of weeks. And my 22-year-old is married. I'm also the stepdad to 3 other wonderful children. And yeah, I'm a passionate person who wants to help people live a better quality of life through the benefits of total health and exercise. And how do I do that? I want you to picture this, everybody who's watching and or listening. Picture you're an online coach, or you're a gym owner, or you're a health and fitness and wellness professional, and you get somebody to come into your place of business or phone call or on a Zoom call. And as you have this conversation, you get to a point where you tell them the price of your product or your program, and all of a sudden people go, and they go, I need to think about it. It's too expensive. Can't afford it. Got to speak to my spouse. And they start throwing objections at you. Now imagine you get somebody who has experience for over 25 years in the health and fitness wellness space and in handling objections, so that you could get a blueprint where you can practice live handling objections, so that you can overcome those obstacles that stop you from helping other people live a better quality of life, the benefits of what you have to offer in total health, wellness, and fitness. Who do you know who that would love to be able to get an opportunity to be able to time collapse so that you can master that skill, which is really handling objections without coming across as pushy? Because that's what I do. I help people handle objections specifically really well in that health and fitness and wellness space, so that we could help people live a better quality of life through the benefits of total health and exercise. It's part of my own mantra. I've said it millions of times, which is why it rolls off my tongue. Does that help?
So yeah, no, absolutely. It's really an interesting space that you've created for yourself. And because what you were a competitive cyclist. Is that
very good question? No. So I love this, Philip. I actually started in the exercise equipment retail industry. I'm born and raised, and I still live for the most part, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I do have a second home in Ontario, 2.5 hours east of me on Lake of the Woods. So I live at the lake, and I have a place here, and we're building our dream home on the lake. That is the truth. And it's a big project, so it's taking a bit of time, and we're enjoying it. Nonetheless, I started off as a young fan of bodybuilding and lifting weights. And if you're
cycling, I don't know.
So
where did I get cycling?
How does the guy go from this type of stuff? If you're watching,
oh, nice.
Yeah, this is my Mr. Natural Canada trophy, and so yeah, I keep it on my desk, and I don't do that to impress you. It's because I was never the biggest guy, and I'm not a big guy. It was more I'm still a fan of looking the classic physique, and I competed in my late 20s, early 30s in we'll call it bodybuilding because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And then I got out of it because I thought I got it out of my system. And then my early 40s, I started competing again, and it really went well. And I went all the way to the world qualifier, went to Sofia, Bulgaria to compete at the world level. And of course I couldn't compete at that level because, again, I have no problem if people choose to take performance enhancers or not. Right. That's not the issue. I chose not to, and I couldn't compete at that level. And so my last competition was in the IDFA, which stands for the International Drug-Free Athletic Association. And I won my quote unquote pro card, and I stopped. I said, I'm in the fitness industry and I have a passion for it. And then I got asked from a fitness company that happened to also manufacture bicycles to go and work with them. And so that's how the correlation is. And I'll just give you a quick background, Philip. Once I left my own fitness equipment retail, I went and worked for a fitness company called Bodyguard Fitness, who was owned by Pro Cycle Group. So fitness and bicycles kind of go hand in hand. Then I started working after that, after 5 years of doing work with them. I started working for another company that got headhunted, and this other company called Vision Fitness, which is currently owned by a company called Johnson. And you may know Matrix as a brand of exercise equipment. Mm-hmm. Well, Johnson Health Technologies, right, was making the fitness equipment for Vision. And Vision was originally known as, you might know this brand called Trek. Bicycle.
Trek Bikes.
Well, yeah. Trek Bikes owned Trek Fitness, which changed, and Johnson Health Tech was part of that. And I was there at that time. And then they switched it from Trek to Vision. So I was in the throes of things when Trek switched it to Vision. So Trek got out of the fitness industry, but there was always a fitness and bicycle connection. And then I left Vision Fitness after 5 years. after I wrote a book called Boutique Thinking in a Big Box World. Now, today, the book should be called Boutique Thinking in an Internet World. And in fact, it should be Boutique Thinking in an online world, because now like the internet and online it's changing. And so what's interesting is I was doing consulting and traveling all over the world in both fitness and in bikes. And then a bike and fitness company invited me to go to their place of business in Foothill Ranch, California. I did a workshop for them. And then the president of that company pulled me aside, brought me to their warehouse, and he said, I want you to hop on this electric bike. Now I'm going back 15 years. So electric bikes today, if you in 2022, big deal.
Yeah. How much did that bike weigh?
Yeah. 15 years ago, if you said electric bikes to people, they wouldn't understand what they were. I didn't know what an electric bike was. I rode it, and I got the opportunity to hop on board while still doing my consulting on the side. I got the opportunity to hop on board in an emerging industry because I knew that the market was going to be massive. And I can tell you that the only part of the bicycle industry that is consistently growing today is the e-bike industry. So I was never a competitive cyclist. I love to ride. I still do. I've got what I call my garage is my barn. I've got several bikes in the barn. And it's one of those things where I'm recycling bicycles all the time. I'm selling them. I'm buying new ones. And admittedly, even though I'm a fitness fanatic and I work out pretty much every day, I ride my e-bike and I have so much fun on it. And so I'm not here to, plug any specific brand, although there are brands that hire me. And I will plug a specific brand.
Go for it.
Pedigo electric bikes. They get me to train their stores. And Pedigo is going through a massive growth, not just because of the pandemic, because of the fact that they're offering such a level of support. So I'll give you this much. Imagine where if you hired me for my fee, Pedigo turns around and gives their dealers free bikes because they hire me. So they subsidize the sales training. So if you're a dealer for Pedigo, the Pedigo corporate loves the training that I give. That's our agreement. So I'm the exclusive sales trainer for Pedigo electric bikes, above and beyond everything that you already know about me, Philip, with the SOS Dojo, which is really my forte. So we do help bicycle dealers, for example, handle objections. Of course, I'm helping gyms, I'm helping online coaches, and I'm helping people be able to explain what they do without being pushy so that they can make a difference in other people's lives.
That's the sentence right there. That's one thing that drew me to you via, I don't exactly remember the avenues
Ron Moura
together, but it was Ron Moura. Thank you very much.
That's right. Who works with Craig Ballantyne.
Via Craig Ballantyne, via how that connection happened, I don't recall, but it did. Okay, so I want to back up because there was a lot of great stuff in there. Can we back up to right before the IDFA? Yes. When you're on stage, and I've done my own style fitness competition, but it's out in the hills or through a stadium or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
When were you went and you did your you competed, you performed, and you looked to your right and your left, and there were the athletes that were, winning in air quotes were obviously not doing it naturally. What happened? What switched for you? What made you be like, you know what?
So the first time around, it was one of those things where I just needed to get out of my system. And then what ended up happening was, as I got older, I said, well, I mean, it's, again, I'm 5 right now. I'm 5'8". But this is now 11 years later, right? So I was 5'9". I'm getting shorter. So that's okay. So what's interesting though is I figured out, how am I going to win if I'm not going to go in terms of quote unquote performance enhancement to get big? Because there's only just so much size that I could put on to this frame. So my analogy was, okay, if I'm not going to be winning on size, I'm going to win on shape and condition, where I'm going to make a point that the judges just can't keep their eyes off me, which is exactly what I did. So even at the provincial level, because I'm in Canada, so it's like the state level, the provincial level, I had guys that were literally 40 pounds heavier than me, and I was beating them, not because I was bigger, obviously, because my shape and my shreddedness was that much better. And so that was point one. Then it got to a point where when you go from the provincial and or state level, you go to the national level, things get really tough. And then it's a question of, well, because now the look of the physique is one thing. What I was excelling at, and again, now I can share this, it was posing. The presentation is just like a sales presentation. Who's your audience? So some people are, if you're watching this right now, some people think that I got to look over there. And so you're posing to the back of the room that way. And I knew that my judges were down there. So instead of, and again, I'm doing this for the camera. So if I was doing a bicep pose, I wasn't posing up here. I was aiming it to them. And what would I always do? 55% of the way we communicate is body language. What everybody else like this, and I would be like this, and I was happy, and I would move, and I was so shredded. So that was the key. And I would be smiling, and I would even wink at the female judges on purpose. They couldn't help but look.
Yeah.
So of course that was part of the plan, man. It was all part of the plan. And so that's part of persuasion, even without using a word.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's interesting how what you were doing then kind of factors into what you do now.
100%.
Where it's, and I think one thing that I really like about what you do now in the program that I was involved in is I even hesitate to use the word persuasion, but it's your program. So,
it's influential.
It's something that people need to do. They just don't know it. It's kind of like it's convincing someone to invest now, because 5 years from now, they'll look back and wish they had trusted you.
Right.
That's kind of how I see it.
I appreciate you mentioning it that way. The question that I have is, what's more important? Do you, as a consumer, do you want to be sold, or do you want to be compelled to buy? And so if there's a way that I could communicate with you and make it so that you feel so comfortable, and that, yeah, I want to deal with you, and I'm going to pull out my wallet and I want to buy from you, that's the goal. And that is a skill. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
And so if you're the listener, if you're watching this, what is it that we need to do? And what are Philip and I doing right now? We're asking each other questions. I'm asking you, the listener and the viewer, questions. And so that's a dialogue. And this is where, even without using words and even without tone, I can still have a dialogue with somebody, whether it's like winking and smiling and having that dialogue. Because you think of it this way. And I remember when I was single, right? Philip, think of it when you were single, you could see her from across the room. You didn't have to say anything. Could you still speak to her without using words?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. You're going, hell yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So couldn't we do that with a way where we're making people feel comfortable, and we're comfortable in our own skin? And this is where getting to a point of being so comfortable with it that it becomes unconscious. You're doing it without even thinking. So first, you got to go through these 4 states of, most people don't even know that this stuff that we're talking about even exists. Then they find out, and then they're consciously incompetent, which is okay. It's like, holy crap. It's like, I didn't know that this was a way that I could train. Like back when kettlebells first came out. Like, think of it. When you first discovered a kettlebell and you were used to just using barbells and dumbbells, suddenly this whole new modality came out. So you didn't know they existed. Then you found out they existed. Then it was like you're consciously learning how to use them. And now I watch some of your videos, Philip, and it's like, you don't even have to think, because you're so good at it. You're teaching it, which is what we do within my program, the SOS Dojo. We get people to a level where they become teachers. Because if you really want to master a subject, teach it. Yeah.
So, all right. So you've gotten your bodybuilding days are professionally. You decide to shelve that.
Oh yeah.
Where we are. I'm just in the chronology of Joel.
Yes.
And you are absolutely just you're in the electric bike game or in the bicycle world.
Yeah.
And you've transitioned into what I assume you do primarily, which is lead cycles, SOS dojo, your programs that you have to help.
Right. So
people.
This is how that evolved. The Army of One sales training concept came from my time in the exercise equipment industry. And then the transition to develop it into a program became apparent in 2007 when I came out with my first book. And then from the book, I would get speaking engagements to go do talks on, and again, boutique thinking in a big box
was that
world.
boutique? Okay, that was my
yeah. And so from there, I started getting opportunities to go and teach Army of One. Part of Army of One is a section that we spend a couple of hours on at minimum, which is handling objections. It's normal in any type of sales type of thing.
What is Army of One?
Army of One is it's a soup to nuts from beginning to end, from onboarding someone who walks in your, whether it's retail or into your funnel, your sales funnel, how to be able to speak to them from the beginning, developing your sales questions. Again, we believe in a consultative process. So to me, it was always, why am I going to tell somebody about what I have to offer? Doesn't it make more sense that I ask questions to make sure that what I have is appropriate for them in the first place? Yeah. So people don't want to be sold. They want to choose to buy. So that's been my belief in my whole career. I know that doesn't mean that there wasn't a time that I would barf all over people with information, which was useless. I have to catch myself. So it was like, okay, what questions can I ask that show that I care about the people that I'm dealing with? So Philip, have you ever heard this before? People don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care.
I haven't heard it phrased exactly like that, but I'm going to write that down because it speaks volumes.
Right. So how do people know if you care about them? You ask questions and then you do what's called active listening, and you take notes and you go, okay, based on what you've told me, based on what you've told me part, you can only get there if you ask them questions. And then that's where what I call ETR, you earned the right based on everything that they've told you. I've now earned the right based on time and know, like, and trust to tell you very briefly of what it is I have to offer and the price. And then at that point, people will naturally, and I don't care if your price is $5, $50, $500, $5,000, $50,000, $500,000, doesn't matter the number. The natural reaction is to object, because people aren't necessarily afraid of the dollars. They're just afraid to make the wrong decision. And that's the nature of objections. So, and most people hate the idea of quote unquote sales. And I'm looking to change that. I mean, if I think of sales, what do you think I think of? And if I ask you the same question, you the viewer, you the listener, and you, Philip, if I said salesman, what image comes to mind?
Used cars.
Right? And we just, everybody gets that feeling like, forget it, man. I
Plaid
hate
jackets
sales.
and mutton chops.
Right. Yeah. The old story of pushing steel, right? Nobody loves the idea of being in sales. And so I want people to think differently in terms of their approach, because sales, like it or not, is the oxygen to anybody's business. If you don't make sales, and it's not a question of I'm looking to close at all costs. That's not it at all. And I'm not looking to, take advantage of people. Again, can I be influential in my approach where people feel comfortable and they see the value? If I can create value in my approach to talking to people, doesn't it make sense that they'll want to buy? Which means this isn't salesy at all. And so how do we develop a list of questions as part of the Army of One? How do we handle objections? And then what do we do after the sale? What's the process to be able to continue to get referrals? What's the process to be able to get more testimonials? What's the process to make sure that I'm delighting my customer? Because you know what a lot of people do, Philip, is that, and you probably know of people that we've all experienced this. People want to satisfy their customers, right?
Not enough.
Right. And so to me, I'm with you. And I've heard this recently, and I love this recently in the last decade. And we don't want to satisfy our customers because that's not enough. We want to delight them. if I delight you, if I'm an 11 out of 10, you are going to be a raving fan. You're going to tell other people about me. And that's how we get organic growth. So I would rather develop an organic growth system so that when I optimize my sales system, and when it's optimized, then we can use that fancy word that everybody's using these days when it comes to business, and it's called scale. We're going to scale your business. You know what? You can't scale any business until your sales system is optimized. And who does that? The entrepreneur, the business owner. So I deal with a lot of people that are business owners and entrepreneurs first. And then sometimes I'm dealing with their team so that they can work on their business and not always in the weeds in their business. And we do both. And I have a passion for it. Because again, it comes back. Yeah, go ahead, please.
No. Go ahead. I
was just going to say, because if
got it written down.
I mean, I'm helping a variety of different coaches and different types of businesses and whatnot in the dojo. The wheelhouse has been in that health, wellness, fitness, sporting goods kind of space. Although, again, I've got copywriters in the dojo. I've got, I actually have, no kidding, I have a witch in the dojo. She deals in the dark arts. I don't have to understand what she does. I'm helping her connect with her audience so that she can handle objections, so that people can work in what she calls their shadow. It's fascinating. Again, there's
incredibly fascinating.
It is fascinating.
So many interesting things being kind of at the source of all of these different professions. My question for you was about, so you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included. And with my time in the dojo, there were several people who were working for some sort of corporate entity.
Yep.
And when I worked for, I was Bally's way back when, and Equinox. And one of the biggest problems that I had was I could not kind of extrapolate what some of the things that I've learned from you. It just wasn't time yet. I was too young in my career. But one of the things that really bugged me was that I felt like if I show value, if I do a good job, so to speak, then good things happen. Now, quantifying that becomes a little bit different when you have corporate, from above, whoever that is, the man or whatnot, saying you've got quotas to hit. I don't care how you get there. Just do it. And by the way, here's a rate increase that you're going to have to justify to all your clients. So my question is, that's one thing I hated. And that's one of the things that really got one foot out of the door. And so now I work for myself on my own schedule. And so my question is this, in a roundabout sort of way, like, is there any kind of training or advice that you would have for someone? There was someone in a dojo that I was in, South Carolina girl, gal, and she is working for a corporate entity. And I guess, like, what would you say to someone like that who has to present themselves and sell, but also has this kind of corporate monkey on her shoulder that says, like, just go do it, and I don't care how much it is. And here's a higher quota than last month.
So here's what's interesting, what's happened with her. I don't know if you're aware of this, Philip. She's no longer working for that facility that she's working for. She actually got another opportunity based on the skill set that she learned in the dojo. She's now fantastic. Working. Yeah. So there's some interesting, whether you believe in karma or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I think that there's some great energy there that, and the truth of the matter is, she had let me know I'm not happy where I'm working. And there was some issues that she shared with me that were, okay, thanks for sharing with that. So I asked her, so if we could help you find a new place where you're going to be in your element and really comfortable, and you're going to believe in what you have to offer, because the believability offers us what? Power and conviction.
Conviction, absolutely.
So if I have the conviction where I am telling you with my body language that this is what you need, and I'm convincing in my conviction, she was no longer there, whether it was with a Globo gym, AKA, or this other corporate entity. And so one of the things that's transpired with my SOS Dojo business, helping people improve on their objection handling skills, is now there's companies that are calling me saying, hey, listen, I'm looking for high ticket closers. Do you have? And my answer is, yeah, I actually have people that have paid me to learn this skill. And so now I'm charging people to make the connection of highly skilled individuals that have paid to learn the skill.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you're a corporation, you either have to invest in your staff, which you should, or you can go and find staff that have invested in themselves. So I'm the connector. And so this has become a new income stream for the SOS Dojo, and it's worked out really well. So guys like Craig Ballantyne, who connected you to the dojo, for example, well, Craig gets entrepreneurs all the time. So they're looking for a closer. Guess what I did? I put 2 and 2 together. Amber was looking for someone, got her connected with this doctor who's providing a high ticket program, a $35,000 program for other doctors in his realm. It totally resonated with her. They got together and like it's this dream pairing. So part of, and what's interesting is even though it's exceptionally high ticket, this is a boutique opportunity. And so it resonates with what I'm offering. And I'm not saying that there isn't opportunity within the large corporate place, because what I'm seeing as we're changing the view of the economy, large corporations are seeing, hey, I've got to start providing a boutique experience again, or I'm losing out. And a great example, for example, is companies like Fit Body Bootcamp. They're huge. Mm-hmm. They can't afford to not provide a boutique experience, because there's just how much competition is there in their world.
Yeah, it's about everywhere you look. There's something in the fitness space. I mean, you don't have to leave. I'm in a little shed right now. I could get most of my fitness needs done right here as long as gravity keeps working.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So Amber, congratulations to you. If you're listening or watching, that's amazing.
I'm thrilled for her.
So, okay. So moving forward, and by the way, I completely agree with you. The corporate world, I jogged by Equinox this morning, the one I used to work with, and I'm just like, time and a place, but good luck moving forward, guys, because
it's going to be very challenging for these massive places.
The majority of the big box gyms, they're I mean, unless you're 24-hour fitness and you just make money off of thousands of people who don't use their membership.
Yeah, like or Planet Fitness, same thing. It's like, hey,
exactly,
come in for $10 and I don't care if you show up or not. Well, that's that's not the model that I'm working with. And right.
If I can pay $35 a month to Apple to make me use my dumbbells, why am I going to pay $140 to Equinox for a training session? Like, that's a huge bit of revenue. Yeah. And it's just, everything is becoming privatized, boutique, right? It's, hey, I'm talking to you, Joe. How are you doing today? Et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Anyway, it's a brave new world, as they say. You mentioned a few really gold nuggets. I'm sorry, spare ribs, as you like to say.
Keep the meat and throw away the bone, kids. That's what I say all the time.
Or so keep the bones and make a stew.
That's it.
And just you never know what's gonna
happen. No waste.
So are there any maxims that you live by?
Yes. Yeah. One of them is
you'd like to share.
I would rather everyone be, and I love this. I picked this up from a gentleman by the name of Jordan Peterson. And I think I saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast. I love that. It's a saying that neither of them made up, by the way. However, I believe in it. And we're better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So it's better to know more than you need to know. Not that you have to use it. I mean, I want you all to have so many tools in the toolbox. You don't need them. And I'm not saying like the actual toolbox, you don't need to go waste that money. I'm saying in the sense of, hey, you know what? If there's ways for me to learn how to use my body language or my tone of voice, slowing my cadence down so that I can help people understand what the value that I want to provide for them. If there's a way for me to learn these tactics and or techniques or mind hacks, and I can choose not to use them, doesn't that make sense? Because everybody's afraid, and to a certain extent, there are people that are afraid, not everybody. There are people who are afraid to be too aggressive. And I don't want to be aggressive, and I don't want people to be aggressive. However,
when you say aggressive, what do you like? Can you put that in context for me?
The pushy salesperson
I
approach. I
understand.
don't
Okay.
want people to be pushy or aggressive. However, I also want people to push themselves, not their guests. I don't like to call people prospects. I like to call them guests, because I think that if somebody's a guest, you're going to treat them extremely well. And the vocabulary and the language that we use is so important for our own mindset. And so if I can help the person that I'm working with in the dojo do a better job of their mindset to help push themselves, not push their guest across the starting line, because it's not a finish line. There's so many things that people are getting wrong. And in my mind, it's like, if I can get somebody across the starting line with me, that's one thing. The other thing that we need to do is, how many other people can I convince to come on the run with me? So when they say this, the finish line, well, then it's over. And to me, this is a journey. Like, especially, I think of your fitness journey that you're on and that you bring people on with you. It's for your life. It's quality of life through the benefits of total health. What's total health? It could be yoga, could be meditation,
It's
could
analogous,
be nutrition, could be, there's a variety of things. And so
amorphous, excuse me.
So yeah, better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I think that one is so huge. I'm a big believer in highest energy wins.
Damn right.
That to me is and again, if I'm going to be even more specific, it's highest positive energy wins.
Yeah, that's a good
right.
that's
Because the highest energy wins does win if it's negative. If you get around negative people, if you surround yourself right with negative people, then that high energy, whether it's negative or positive, the higher negative frequency can drag you down. So I love it, the way that Wayne Dyer used to say this: picture yourself as surrounded by the people and the conditions you want to produce. So I choose.
Say that one more time, please.
Yeah, my pleasure. Picture yourself. I'm doing this with my eyes closed. Picture yourself as surrounded by the people and conditions you want to produce. That visualization is a choice. And the people and the conditions that I want in my life is a choice. So people say, well, what about free will? You have it right there. People we hear these words like manifesting, and it's like, there's some people that go, the woo-woo thing. It's like, you get to choose as to what you're listening to. You get to choose as to who you're hanging out with. So what's the vibe? If you want to call it frequency, you want to call it vibe, or what's the feeling that I get when I hang out with these people? I mean, when I'm hanging out with somebody like you, I just feel good. So I want to hang out with more people like Philip. If I'm hanging out with somebody who's like Debbie Downer, I make a point of saying, you're not in my life. And that's by choice. I'm not saying that I'm not wishing them well. And it doesn't mean, and by the way, you got to do this with your family.
That's one of the things that makes family difficult, is because you can't just, they might not be on your wavelength, but they're family, and you can't just walk away like you can a friend from the past.
Correct. So you can pick your friends, you can't pick your family. And so it doesn't mean that you can't do things in small doses. Because I mean, some people literally take it to heart and it's like, I'm cutting this off forever. I'm not suggesting that. I'm simply suggesting that there's choices that we can make so that we can have a better quality of life, and that people may follow you on the journey. Like, I'm not going to have family members where, hey, you've got to exercise. No, I'm going to exercise. I'm choosing to exercise. And if they get inspired by what they see and they start to choose to exercise with me, isn't that interesting? As opposed to, hey, wife, you need to exercise, and you're not going to change your wife. So just change yourself and watch what happens. Watch what happens. And it may take a couple of weeks, may take a couple of months, may take a couple of years. It's not about them. It's about you. That's right. And own it. I'll say it is about me, because it's my life.
I like that. Own it. Just own it. Those two words, own it. One of the I'm a big Peterson fan also. And he didn't make this one up. This is probably a Lao Tzu or something, thousands of years old, but civilize the mind, but make savage the body.
I love that. That's awesome.
Goes hand in hand with Gardener in a War. Just like, just become gain control of yourself, develop your mind, and develop your your physical.
I'm writing that one down, my friend. I love it.
Please, well,
And
take it with
this is
not
an
my
example of
compliments, but
active
whoever
listening.
made it. Yeah.
This is an example of active listening, right? Hey, that's a great, I'm going to write that one down. So yeah, civilize the mind and
make savage the body.
Make savage the body. I love it.
And there was another one. It was people don't, you said it, and I'm going to butcher it here because I tried to write it down, but I can't read my writing. I mentioned 15 minutes ago, I'd heard a variation of that. And
people don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care.
And thank you. And the kind of shortened Americanized version of that is don't be interesting, be interested.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I know something there. That's it. But I like yours. And
there's a variation of that. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said. People forget what you did. They'll never forget how you made them feel. So even if you're a data person, when you get the data that you appreciate, when you read it on the page or see it in the Excel spreadsheet, it makes you feel a certain way. So if you want to see a return on investment, it makes you feel a certain way. If you are the observer of an act of kindness, you're not even involved in the interaction, and you just see someone be kind to another person, you still feel a certain way, which is highest energy wins. It feels good to see other people be kind to each other. And you're not even involved. Just being in that vicinity of being an observer of that feels good. And that's part of the, hey man, I want to be in that, and I want to be a part of that, and I want to create a community of that. And we do that. How do we start? You remember, how do we start every SOS dojo, Philip? What do we start? Wins of the week. So we celebrate other people's. So I'm just an observer and a listener of somebody else's win. And what do we all do? We celebrate it together. And what does it do? It generates an energy. Yeah. It's all part of our plan.
I think there's something to be said for, so this is something I really recently started doing. And I'm going to talk about downtime here in a minute. Like now we're too, well, you're cool. We know me. We don't know yet. But before I do these shows, these conversations, I will do some breath work. I will do a few burpees if I'm feeling a little lethargic, not enough to break a sweat, because I just don't want to look gross. But basically I want to give you my undivided attention. Yeah. And one thing that I noticed it was a couple months ago, is when we have downtime, when you're just like, I want to shut my brain off, and you pop on, I'm guilty. Social media is a drug. And that's either good or bad. It's either aspirin or something you buy off the street from somebody you don't want to ever see again. Yeah. And one thing I started noticing is like, and it kind of speaks to the craziness of the world here. Like I was just getting like just these horrible like things in my feed. Like, like it's either sex sells or violence or like, some amazing sports feat, which is kind of like, at the end of the day, it's like, man, I'll never be able to do that. Like, okay. And so I was like, this is not putting, and then I'd have work where I need to be present for a client or something like that. And it would still be in the back of my head. Like, I just saw that weird, horrible, or kind of thing that made me feel inadequate. And so I was like, you know what? I have complete control over this. What I need to do is take action, take ownership. And I'm not going to stop doing social media. It's a powerful tool for people like us. And so what I did is I was like, give me some good news. And so I just hashtag good news. And I've started following like 20 other pages that I get there was one that I believe is on my story right now. And it was the president. It was a story in Macedonia. And there was a child who was being bullied, who had a mild form of Down syndrome. Okay. And the parents were talking to the teachers, like, why is this kid in class with it's paraphrased, but still that's horrible. Okay. Like,
why would somebody omit somebody and exclude another human being?
Exactly. Yeah. So what the president of Macedonia did was like, you know what? I'm walking this kid to school the next day. And and we're going to have a conversation with whoever has an issue with that. And
Yeah.
that was the blurb. And I'm like, son of a bitch, that makes me feel really good. There
Isn't
are
that
some
cool?
good things in the world, because CNN and MSNBC and Fox, they're not telling you good stuff like that. They're giving you things to be afraid of. And it just
For
gets
sure.
overwhelming.
And
it
there's
bleeds into what we do. And I can't stand it.
And there's so much, it's easy to be divisive. And I'm with you. I don't listen or watch the news very often. I'm not saying I completely obliterated it. I make a point of, I don't go, oh, it's 6 o'clock, I'm gonna go, no, or whatever. Right. I don't. And it's interesting because I recently had a call with my mom, and we were discussing something just family related. And then she said, "Did you see the news?" And I said, "Nope." And this is what's crazy. Within a span of 5 minutes my mom is lovely, just absolutely lovely. And she was angry after 5 minutes. And I had to tell her 3 times, Mama,
I don't subscribe.
I am not, Mama, I'm not watching. So I don't know. I didn't know about, I had heard that there was this truck thing going on in Ottawa. Okay. Yeah. And then now it's happening in my hometown of Winnipeg. And I'm like, I had no idea. And she's like, and she's upset by it. I'm like, this is why I don't watch the news, Mama, because you're upset by it. And I don't want to be upset by it. I'd like to, because really, in all reality, the only thing that I learned is don't drive in that direction. Okay. I'm going somewhere. That's news enough for me.
Yep.
If people want to do a protest and there's no physical harm, good for you. If you're going to be upset at the talking heads that are talking about, because that's the problem with news. The news is there's a barricade. It's a peaceful protest. That's it. What people are now doing is they're talking about the news, and it just gets people pissed off. I don't need to know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's I agree 100%. I'm in NPR, a little bit of BBC, some Al Jazeera if I want to know what's going on in the world.
I'm from Canada. So public radio is, not everybody agrees. If you're a listener, I can appreciate if you don't agree with what Philip and I are saying. That's okay too, because we're allowed to all have our opinions, and I don't have to crap on you for it.
Next show or pause or stop or whatever. That's the freedom of choice that you have.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you look forward to doing each and every day?
Oh man, that's a great question. This is going to be interesting. So I have a morning routine. Part of my morning routine, I look forward each and every day. This is crazy. I look forward to that first sip of coffee. Now, not everybody's a coffee drinker. That's fine. I love it could be how you prepare your coffee is fine. I love the smell. I love my house is pitch black when and if I'm at the lake, it's even more glorious, because I sit down on whether you call it an Adirondack chair or a Muskoka chair, they're all the same kind of chair, depending on where you're from.
Those are tough to get out of.
They're
once
beautiful.
You're down, right? It's like, I'm not getting out of here.
You're sitting back, and I watch the sunrise. Depending on the time of year, right? Because I'm in Canada, so of course it's depending on the hour. My point though is I look forward to every day the moment of reflection, just to be able to sit back. And so I go with my morning routine. And part of my morning routine, and I've been doing this for over 2 years now, is my morning exceptionally cold water only shower. I don't look forward to that. It will vary if I do only, and I'm talking so it'll vary between 2 to 5 minutes. Like the first 30 seconds suck. The first 30 seconds absolutely suck. Because I go in cold water only. I don't touch the hot tap at all.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. And so I measured I checked I put a meat thermometer in just to check the digital thermometer, and it said 46 degrees. So, I mean, it's cold.
That's chilly. Yeah. That's chilly.
It's not, it's cold enough. And trust me, I mean, it's not pleasant. And so my point is and when I'm at the lake, especially in the month of May, where at times there's ice still in the water. Now that's cold. And how cold? Well, viewers, it's about that cold. So, and I stay in the water for a minimum of 2 minutes, and the first 30 seconds suck, and I dive in off the edge of the dock or the pier, depending on where you're from. And so I dive in off the dock, and I go in, and you get to a point where I get to a point where I'm not moving, and I'm just breathing. And then over the course of time, I've gotten better at it where I can just keep moving. And I just, okay, I don't like the cold. I'll tell you right now, I learned this from Tony Robbins. I don't think now, I just go. There was a time where I'd be like a kid putting a toe in the water. Well, that's not helping.
No, you
so
can't
now
do
it's
that.
just go. And it's been years, like 2 years now. So it's just go. And it's great because it's the mental calluses. What I love about the whole thing is when I get to the point where soap is gone, like, and I lather up and soap is gone. I do it on purpose. And once I'm completely soap free and I've stood in there for a while, so it's minimum 2 minutes. Then I get out and then I do a morning stretch. It's a hamstring stretch. And I'm going to be celebrating my 51st birthday. And I'll tell you what, I'm more flexible now than I was back in my 30s. And I stretch every morning. And it's great. So like, I mean, I don't even have to warm up to touch my toes. I'm talking like with my palms in my hand. Yeah. And then of course so it's fun because, so I look forward to that every morning. I look forward to the routine before I sit down and I do my non-urgent important work. I'm at my desk at 6 a.m. So my routine typically takes me about half an hour. At the lake, I will tell you it's now 45 minutes because the Adirondack chair faces east. So I watch the sunrise and it's just so beautiful. And I can just appreciate everything around me. And I do appreciation work. In fact, I have what's called a thank you journal. And I used to call it my gratitude journal. And I recently learned that, instead of saying I'm grateful for, I now say thank you for. And that feeling of thank you means more to me. And so, yeah, I say thank you. And I've learned that from a variety of other people. It's just like, yeah, okay, that's powerful. So yeah. I value that.
So that's, I mean, there's no wrong answer there, but that seems like I get it. I see why you're able to do what you do, because I think that morning routine is so powerful, so important. And it's incredibly vital to adhere to those routines.
It's a ritual.
Yeah, to those rituals. Better word there. So next question.
Yeah, please.
So many people define this differently, and I think it's a bit of a cop out, and I know to say money, and I know you're not going to say that, but I want to just set that definition ahead before I ask you.
Sure.
But what is your definition of success? And would you say that you found some semblance of it to whatever it means to you?
The answer I think is, it may surprise you and it may not. The answer is yes, I found it. Okay. I have a passion for what I'm doing. If you can't hear it in my voice, then you're not watching this, then okay, like you're missing out. I'm loving this. I'll call it work. I don't have to do this. I get to do this, man. Like I just get to do this. So I'm thrilled. And I'll tell you, Philip, I've no word of a lie. I could play it off of my phone right now. I get easily minimum of 2 messages a week of heartfelt messages from people where it's like, you have touched my soul. You've made such a difference. And these are people that are paying me very well, by the way. And yet they're not looking at the money as, oh, I got to pay Joe. They're paying me because they're getting value, which is awesome. So success, when I say success, money does play a role in that. I would lie to you all if I said, hey, you know what? I'm not making good money. I'm making good money. Am I a billionaire with a B? No. Am I making enough money where I don't have to work? Yeah, I am. Okay. And I've been poor before, and I've been in a position where I've had financial wealth. And between the two, I do prefer having the means to be able to purchase things that I want out of pure pleasure. I think that's fair because of the question of giving value to others because they're choosing to pay me for the value that I'm giving them. Okay, number one. Number two, I've never been in a position where I am now where I'm able to give back. When I say give back, and this is something that I learned from a mentor of mine 20 years ago. And it's when, and I'm not suggesting that I'm self-actualized. It was him who said, self-actualizing people have no choice but to be. And it was just so poignant. Because
one more time, please. Just say that again, please. That's great.
Self-actualized people have no choice but to be. It was like, that's the way he put it. And you know how I am with the word but, because in the context of acknowledging someone and then asking them a question, which is the blueprint of the SOS, we really need to be careful of using the word but, because I don't want to negate anybody's feelings or what they stand for. In this context, is self-actualizing people have no choice but to be. So the word but in context makes more sense. And there's no negation there. And so I agree with that. And so for me, it resonated that I want to be self-actualized. I'm not suggesting that I am. I want to be. I continue to want to be, and I want to continue to grow as such. Mm-hmm. And there's 4 things that I've told my team in the dojo, because I'm lucky I've got staff and everything. And if you would ask me this even a few years ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would have been in this place. And it was because I surrounded myself with the people and the conditions I wanted to produce. So it's been able to afford me to be able to do these things. And part of that is the 4 things that I tell my team. Hey guys, I want to make a difference. And I want you to make a difference. I want us to have fun. So what is success? I'm making a difference. I'm having fun. Number 3, keep growing. And number 4, get paid. There's nothing wrong. Those are the 4 things. Make a difference, have fun, keep growing, get paid. Because we live in a society that requires us to be able to trade dollars for value. Do you want to eat? Okay, you've got to pay for the food. That's the value that you're buying, the quality of the food that you're buying. So yeah. And I'm not saying like in that movie Wall Street way back when with Michael Douglas, where he said, greed is good. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying building value and getting paid for it is good. And giving back to those who don't have the wherewithal to do it, it's our obligation. And we're seeing more philanthropy now than ever. And I'm not saying that I'm a philanthropist. I'm not. I'd love to be. Mm-hmm. And I'm growing myself to be, because I do. And this is where it's at, Philip. I'm giving more now than I ever have in my lifetime. And I know I could grow to be able to give even more, which is great.
And the fact that you have your sights set on that, I think speaks to the quality of your character also, Joe.
Well, thanks, man. And the freedom, success is also a question of freedom. And I say freedom. I mean, I'm not in a position, I'm not in a position right now to say, I'm going to get I'm going to buy myself a jet plane and go over that. That's not necessarily freedom. It is to a certain level. Mm-hmm. For me, the freedom of choosing to say now at a place to say, you know what, I can get a member of my team if I choose to. I don't want to necessarily work. And money affords me the freedom to do that. And so again, money isn't evil. It's how do I look at money? It's just because money in itself, what it is, it's just a thing that we exchange for value. It's an imaginary
system that we've put value into.
That's it. So the skill set of the acquisition therein mm-hmm. is a skill. And then the investment therein is a skill. And I'm not perfect at that either. That's okay. I'm lucky to say that I have a level of success at it, though. I'm very lucky.
Yeah. I mean, I think that to parallel on your breakdown just a little bit, I think one of my big definitions of success is how many people respect you, not out of fear or anything like, you better pay up or else, but how many people call you and say, thank you for the good that you've shown me or taught me how to manifest for myself. And I think that that's one thing that is you should probably go ahead and credit yourself with also, because that's one thing that I respect the hell out of you. You wouldn't be on the show if I didn't find you interesting and very knowledgeable in what you do. What is I've just got a few more questions and then
yeah, hey man, I've dedicated all this time for you, my man. You know it. I want to give you and your listeners and viewers as much as I can.
Well, thank you very much. Can you break down for me one thing that it is that you struggle with?
Oh, you know what?
or did you find challenging? I mean, you could kind
I,
of frame that how you'd like.
yeah, you know what? It's a constant. This may surprise you. Imposter syndrome. I
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah. I catch myself at times going, I can't believe, like I catch myself. I can't believe people are actually calling on me to help them with this when I just think you should know this. And they don't. And people don't. It's like I think of as a fitness coach. And I was doing fitness coaching back when I had my exercise equipment retail stores I started my first store. I was 20.
Uh-huh.
I think of it from the ages of 20 to 26, being in full-time fitness retail, doing coaching before, again, this is like 30 plus years ago. People didn't think of hiring a personal trainer 25 years ago. They would say, well, only Hollywood actors would need them back then. Now people understand the benefit of accountability. And you can't just get fit on one workout. It's the consistency of it. So you can't get better at communication with one session in the dojo. You have to come back and keep repeating and having live course corrections as opposed to just reading something in a book. And that's the value of accountability in live coaching. And so the imposter syndrome that I catch myself with is the fact that, yeah, you know what? Yay, it's my differentiating value that we do it live. And yet it's the struggle internally of reminding myself that, yeah, you know what? This is not available. And so I catch myself, Philip, where it's like, again, it's just because have you ever, and I'll pose it this way, Philip, you're at a level of mastery in your craft when it comes to fitness and health. Would you not say that you're there in comparison to the average bear, if you will?
Yeah, as humbly as I could agree with you. Yes, I'll do my best to nod.
And so I don't want to come across as egotistical either. And this is the struggle, because I've had people say, dude, you're awesome. Dude, you should charge more. Dude, you're like, not that everybody called me dude. This is the piece where that struggle is real. And then because I've had people recently tell me, you're not charging enough. You're not charging enough. And I find that interesting, because I've heard people like Bedros Koulian, Craig Ballantyne, Vince Del Monte, Tony Robbins, Dean Graciosi, those that pay attention. And so these are people that are saying, Joe, you got to charge more. I've had people say, Joe, I had one person say for the next 12 months, increase your price by $1,000 a month for the next 12 months, like increase it. Mm-hmm. So we're going from X to $1,000. So that's an extra 12 grand. Right. And I understood where he was coming from, because he was making the point, even if you have fewer people that you could serve, you're going to have more people committed to the value that you bring. And so, of course, that's the struggle that I catch myself in, because I want to help as many people as I can.
Right.
And yet, in the flip side, and I totally agree that those that pay attention, if I were to give it away, then people don't take it seriously.
100. That's one of the things that really resonated with me when in the work that we did together. One of the things I broke down, and you're just like, nope, you need to up. And that was very, very,
it's scary.
You threw me off my base there. And you said people who pay attention. And I think every single time I've bought something expensive, I'm like, this is awesome. And I give my energy and my attention to understanding it because of what it costs. And I think that's a very, very true postulate to shape your business by. Okay, last question. If you had one superpower, Joe Marcoux, what would that be?
Oh, I would be like a Charles Xavier, except I could walk around. I would be a telepath. I would be, because the superpower of being able to read someone's mind, we all say that we could, right? And I'd love to be able to either read and or control people's minds and thoughts. And because if you had that kind of power and people go, oh, I'd love to fly. Like, okay, I'd love to really know what everybody's thinking. And then I'd love to be able, right?
I don't know, man. Ignorance is bliss to me. Like if I'm like, hey, ha ha ha, I'm Phil, and I could read what they really thought about me. I'm like, oh, I feel terrible now.
The interesting thing here is not only from a telepathic perspective, again, it's not being used for evil. I want to be very clear here. Okay, telepathic in the sense of
good distinction there.
I can hear what you're saying, and then I can have you think differently. With my thoughts, I'm shaping your thoughts to shape them, bending literally like Neo in the Matrix. Mm-hmm. I'm shaping the world the way that I want to see it. That's like
as
phenomenal.
long as you stay as nice a guy as possible, go for
that's just it, right?
Go for it.
Yeah, right. So, and it's interesting because my goal is I don't want to be, if I was going to go to the Matrix piece, my goal in the Matrix, this Matrix that we're in, is I don't want to be Neo. I want you and anybody who's watching. I want you all to be Neo. My goal is to be Morpheus. I want to be that person who's coaching to help people actualize themselves. Like when I get people, that's it. That's the goal.
So that's two bald guys that you have quoted. Do you get to keep your hair with?
Yeah, well,
do you get to keep that hair, Joe? You still got it though. You still got it.
I'm lucky. Man. I gotta say, thanks, Dad, for the gene pool. Yeah,
I love it. So, Joe, where can people find you if they're interested in what you do and how they can help them? I mean, this was just a conversation between two guys together. But if people are like, "Hey, this speaks to me," shoot them out. I'll put them in the show notes. Where can they find you? Best
place to find out more about me and what I do and the work that we do. And you can even come in for a free session. Literally, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I want to give you value. Is SOSDOJO.com. SOSDojo.com. You can go visit there. You can say, hey, click on the free session, get a free pass. And you can come and experience what Philip, who's been talking, we kind of bantered a little bit about what they did. You get to come in and try it out and see it and get value and walk away with actionable items right then and there. I would love for you to, you can go to Real Joe Marcoux on Instagram, or you can go to SOS Dojo on Instagram. I changed my handle for that reason. SOSDojo.com, best place. You'll learn a lot right there.
And I can just speaking to our listeners and viewers, that's how Joe and I met. And this is not the intention of our conversation today, but just seeing what this gentleman was providing and the students that spoke for the system, it immediately was apparent how valuable this was. So, Joe, is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I just want to thank everybody if you're still listening, you've come all this way. Thanks for listening. And I want to say thanks, Philip. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me in this conversation. I wish you all the best of luck with this show. I think what you're doing here is fantastic. And I know the work that you're doing was your passion. You're making a difference in people's lives. Keep cranking, man. And I've got your back any way I can help you. Let me know.
Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate getting to know and calling great people like you friends. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.